and welcome back to the Perfunctionist channel. So in last week's video we looked at the Fullerton, which is the Line 6 amp model of the Fender 5C3, not 5CE, which is what I kept saying last week, which is an old school amp from the 1950s, and it's one of the amp models on the Helix. So what I thought about doing last week, which is what this video is about, is seeing as it's such a vintage amp, and I can imagine using this live, with an actual in the room with a real amp. If I was to put this through the Powercab, how would it fare? So that's what this video is about. So I've got my Powercab here, which I think is off screen at the moment, but you'll see that in a moment. And I have rejigged the preset. I've actually saved it as a new one, but I've rejigged it so that the speaker, the cab on the preset is turned off, and all the cab duties are being done by the Powercab here. I found I've had to tweak some of the EQs a bit to make it sound, better than it did just kind of plugging straight in. And I'll explain at the end what my thoughts were on the sound of the Powercab. Let me also mention that on the Powercab I used the Jarvis speaker sim, which is very close to the one that they used in the original Fender amp. I don't know how these things work, but it's very close, if not exact. So in the original Fender 5C3, there was a Jensen P12 Q, I believe it is. I did look this up, and I think that's right. The one that they have on the Powercab is the Jensen P12R. Or there could be the other way around. I can't remember now. Maybe I'll make a note in the comment below right here if I've got that wrong, or just to correct myself or confirm myself. So it should sound pretty similar, and that's the whole point of this test. So find out afterwards to see what my thoughts were on that. I will say that I did try out with a creamback speaker as well, but I'll talk about that later on in the video. If at any point you like what you're hearing, what you're seeing, then feel free to give this video a like, and obviously if you subscribe, that'd be great as well. You can download the preset for this, at least for last week's one, so the one that's not the Powercab one. You can download that from the Custom Tone website. It's a free download, but if you do download it, if you do like it, or if you just like what I do in general, you can buy me a coffee, a virtual coffee, which should be like a little kind of banner up here for that. And it just kind of sends me a little tip, and kind of money goes towards keeping this channel up and running and going and getting stuff, and it basically helps the channel out. So if you want to do that, if you want to be awesome, then that's great. Anyway, I'm yapping again. Last week's video was really long, so let's just jump straight into it. So let's quickly talk about the layout here on the Helix. So this is essentially the same layout, the same preset as the one I did in my last video about the Fullerton that was going direct. The only difference is here I've turned off the speaker IR, or the cab on here, because we're going directly into the Powercab, and I'm going through my AES kind of digital cable there. So that's the main difference. Although what I have found myself having to do was to turn the top end down a bit, at least if I'm going through the Jarvis speaker. So the EQ is slightly different to the one that you can download from the Custom Tone website, the one I did in my last video. But everything else is the same. You've got your effects here along the bottom, as if you've got like a traditional pedal board. You've got the Kinky Boost, which is like an EP booster. We've got the Timmy here, the Timar. I've kept this gain boost here. All this is, it just raises the volume. So it's kind of like a solo boost in a way. We've got a tremolo here, and we've got a 63 spring reverb. I've actually also kept the room reverb that I had in the last video. I know it's going through a speaker, but it kind of, I just like the sound of having that tiny bit of reverb there to make it sound a bit more, or a little bit less sterile. So if you want to turn that off, that's kind of right here at the end here. That's the hold on, it's that last reverb there. Our spring reverb is the one before it. So if you want to turn that off, then you can do that. Let's check some sounds out. So, before we do that, and these three buttons along here, these are the ones you probably won't be having to press that often, but they are snapshots of different ways of setting up the amplifier. So rather than having to kind of go to your amp, or in this case your virtual amp, and kind of rejig the knobs, what you can do is create them as snapshots, which is what I've done here. So on the original Fullerton amp, the Fender 5C3, you've got your normal channel, you've got a bright channel, and you can also jump the inputs as well for a more kind of driven channel. So I've got snapshot 1 and 2 are for my normal. One is just a clean channel, one's slightly more not distorted, but kind of slightly a bit more drive. And what you'll notice here is that if I'm on the clean, so I'm currently snapshot 1, this label here is telling me that if I click on this, it will go to normal channel pushed, snapshot 2. If I have a darker guitar, in my case I've got the Epiphone 339, I can go to my bright channel. So if I click on that, it will default to the clean, that's snapshot 3, and the snapshot 4 will be the slightly driven, slightly pushed version of that. And then here we have the jumped channel, and I've done 2 versions of this. That's snapshots 5 and 6, where I'm currently on the bright channel, and if I click on the jump, it will go to my snapshot of the bright version of jump channel. If I'm on the clean, if I happen to be in the clean channel, snapshots 1 and 2, and I want to go to my jumped, it will go to the snapshot which is the normal version of the jump channel, which is really clever, I think. So I hope that makes sense. That kind of just came to me one day when I was thinking about doing this. Anyway, let's check some sounds out. So I've got my Telecaster here, same as last time, and here is the normal channel clean. And here's the normal channel with the pushed snapshot. So let's add some effects. So the effects here are, I've kind of made them to be like a traditional pedal board, where I've just got a bunch of effects like you would have pedals on your pedal board going straight into the amp. And what's different, because what you might know if you've used a Helix before, is that they I think out of the box they come attached to whatever snapshot you're in. So if you're in snapshot 1 and you click on that, when you go to snapshot 2, that will go back to default and turn itself off. When you go back to snapshot 1 again, it will be on again. But you can make these independent of the snapshots, and I've done a video on that if you want to check that out. So that's what you're mainly going to be using, these effects here, this kind of L shape. Let's add some effects. So I'm currently on clean. Here is the Kinky Boost, which is based on the Exotic EP booster. How's the clean sound? So nothing too gainy there, just kind of, some people like to have that and leave it on, the real pedal people like to stick that on and just leave it on because it just kind of makes whatever their sound is sound that little bit better. Let's go to the Timmy. So again, nothing too heavy there, nothing too distorted, very kind of bluesy type, kind of clean sounds-ish. And let's stack these two together. If I'm in a band, I need more volume, I can add the gain boost. Currently set to 2 dB, I believe, 2 dB boost, which I think for this I could probably turn that up a little bit. On the other one last week it was fine, but let's maybe make it 3 dB. So here's without. Yes, I think the reason it's not as potent as it was last week is because in last week's one where we didn't have the power cab, you can see it's set. It's been put after the speaker. In this case, it's before the speaker, so it's probably not going to have as much of an effect. So if I've turned that up a bit, I can probably even turn it up a bit more. Let's try 5 dB actually. So here's without the gain. Yeah, that's definitely more noticeable. So I'm going to leave it on 5. Don't forget to save. So I'm going to go back to my original one and then save. Done. Okay. Here's a bit of trem. We don't really need to hear this, but let's just check it out anyway. And then the 63 spring reverb. So I've actually turned this down a bit from last week because it was a lot more potent here through the power cab than it was through my in-ears last week in last week's non-power cab version. But here's how it sounds. Let's give it some. There it is. Let's try some of these effects with the push channel as well. So here's our pushed normal channel. All right, kinky boost. Timmy. Let's put both of them together. I like that, and let's add the reverb as well. I do like that reverb trail. And one other thing I want to try is, well, let me set this up first. So the cab we've got on the power cab at the moment, the cab sim we've got at the moment is the Jarvis, which is pretty much the same cab as would have been in the original Fender 5C3 amp. The original cab was a Jensen P12R, I think it was, and the one on the power cab is the Jensen P12Q, if I remember correctly, unless I've got them the wrong way around. So what I find though, it sounds very bright, very kind of cutting. There seems to be, I don't know, maybe some of the mids aren't quite there. So what I've found is that the creamback one kind of sounds quite good as well. It kind of tames that top end a bit. But I just wanted to quickly have a listen to that and see how that sounds. So here's our Jensen again. In fact, let me leave it on where we are. So we're on the normal pushed. If I go down to the creamback. Sounds a little bit woolly in comparison, but that might be because on the amps on the Helix, I've had to turn some of the top end down a bit to compensate. So you might want to experiment with that. Obviously, you can do what you want. There's no wrong answers necessarily. So you might want to use the creamback instead. Maybe turn top ends back up on here again. But let's Jarvis. Let's put some of these back on. Creamback. I think the creambacks have it a bit. If I was to retweak this for the creamback, it might sound better, but it depends on your tastes. You might actually like the spikiness of the Jarvis on here. So, but anyway, let's keep going. Let's try the bright channel. So I'm going to switch guitars and let's check it out. All right, so I've got my Epiphone 339. So everything's the same as the normal channel, except this time we're on the bright channel. So let's check this out. Here's the clean. Right, let's check out the bright pushed snapshot. Let's add some effects. I'm going to keep it on this actually. So here's the kinky boost. It's a bit dry. I will add some reverb in a minute. Here's the Timmy. Together. Add some reverb. That reverb really adds some life to it. I don't think it necessarily has to be that reverb, but just having some reverb there really kind of adds, yeah, a bit of life to the sound. I like that. Okay, here's something I didn't do for the Telecaster actually, but here's the bright channel. In fact, I'll go from here. Here's the bright channel pushed. And here's the bright channel jumped. Instantly here there's more gain there. Add some of these. I remember liking the Timmy with this actually. Let's try that. Oh yeah, I like that. The kinky boost I remember being a bit woofy, a bit kind of like almost fuzzy. Let's check that out as well. No, not so much there. It sounds quite nice actually. Let's put the two together. Yeah, it starts to get a bit more gain there, and starts to get a bit louder as well. So the jump channel can be, you can kind of see that as your solo channel. You can also maybe incorporate the gain boost as well if you want. That's just to kick it up and make it a bit louder. Let's do that all again with the spring reverb. I'm hearing a little bit of that compression, that kind of fuzziness. It kind of sounds good there. It kind of sounds like a fuzz pedal. I like it. while we're here, let me keep it on that. Let me try this with the creamback speaker sim as well. So here's a reference point. Here's our Jarvis. Here's our creamback. Jarvis. Creamback. So what did you think sounded better of those two cabs? The Jarvis, which is the Jensen speaker, or the creamback? Now, it's subjective, it depends what you like. I kind of like both of them at different times, but the good thing about the Helix, especially when you've got that AES cable, the L6 cable, which is not what I've got, that's just their own brand. But what you can do is control which speaker sim on the Helix, on the Powercab that you want to use. So I could maybe, if I was to take, maybe say if I took this gain off, this gain block off, I can have it so that, well, so I'd need to have a think about it, but I know you can set this to choose which cab you have. So if I had a standard setup where I had 4 snapshots, for example, one clean, one pushed, and then a solo or a distorted channel, I can have different cabs for different snapshots. And I've done that in other videos before, I believe, or I've talked about it in other videos before. But if you liked both sounds and you kind of wanted to have it that tappable or switchable on your Helix, you can do that. So that's the power of the Helix. That's one thing you can do, which is really cool. So there you go. There is the Fullerton amp plugged into the Powercab. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? How did it compare to the direct one we had last week? So my initial thoughts when I first plugged it in were that it sounded very bright, almost a bit harsh. So I ended up turning some of the EQs down a bit, and that's going through the Jarvis speaker sim. You do kind of get used to the sound of anything that you play through. So after playing through it for a little bit, you start to kind of feel it and enjoy it, and maybe your ears acclimatise. But there was something. I think there's something in the mid range that's kind of not quite there. So in short, I still prefer the sound of a real amp. I haven't tried this amp out, so maybe that's actually what it sounds like. But I can imagine that a real amp, they tend to have this, and I'm sure you've all heard this before or experienced it yourself, about how real amps compared to the digital stuff, it just feels better, and that's the sense I'm getting. It even for me felt a bit better last week, just going through in-ears. So it might be something with the speaker, or maybe I'm not tweaking it right, so it might need a bit more work. Didn't sound bad. But, I'm here to be honest with you guys. It sounded okay to me. Sounded good, okay, but it didn't blow me away. The creamback, when I moved to the creamback, to me, a lot of the time that sounded... it kind of fixed those issues a bit, and maybe I can explore that. Maybe I can get a good sound from the creamback speaker. It sounded, at times, a bit dark through that speaker, but that might be because I turned some of the top end down a bit in the virtual amp. So maybe I can have another go at that and just tweak it and make it sound good through the creamback. I don't want this to turn into a real amp versus digital conversation, because both of them have their place, and definitely the digital thing is very convenient. But those are my thoughts. What did you think? Did you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments below. It'd be an interesting conversation. Obviously keep it nice. But then you guys in the comments are usually pretty nice anyway, so I probably don't have to tell you that. Speaking of you guys in the comments, let's go through some of the comments and shout-outs from last week's video. So Hal9000 says, incredible tones, very well thought out preset, very solid playing, jazzy, bluesy chords, progressions, and nice dirty leads subbed. Thank you for subbing, Hal. Sorry I paused at the beginning there. I was trying to think of a 2001 joke. Hal, what are you doing, Dave? I couldn't think of one. Still can't think of one. So I'm glad you like the playing, jazzy, bluesy. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from the sound, from this amp, and with the guitars I was using. So, it's good when the gear kind of informs your playing, and that's kind of what happened here. Duke Skellington, I recognise your name. You've commented before. That's such a nice preset. I think your Helix tones are the best real-world sounds I've found on YouTube. Well done, sir. Oh, that's really nice. Thank you so much for that. I'm lost for words again. Red Kern just says, just found the video after I downloaded the preset. Really like how you have it working. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you found the preset, and I'm glad you found the video as well. I should probably put a note in the preset on the description that there is a video. I've noticed that I did one for the John Mayer one that I did and put a link there which you'll have to copy and paste, but yeah, I should probably add that to the description of this amp. But yes, thank you for checking that out, and thank you I'm glad you enjoy it. Dennis Hayes, who's commented before and kindly bought me a coffee last week, thank you for that again, says, did you have a cunning plan when you made this video, Ryan? Great content and playing as always. Thank you again, Dennis, as always, for your wonderful comments. That was, in case anyone doesn't know, Cunning Plan, I'm pretty sure was a Blackadder reference, which I think I referenced myself in my reply, because I played the Blackadder theme at one point. Don't tell YouTube in case they copyright me. Philip Doshia, forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, from last week's video said, Powercab vid, yes! Well, here you go, this one's for you, Philip. I hope it answers any questions you had. Feel free to ask some more in this video, but thank you for your comment. Well, that's the comments for today. Feel free to put comments in this video. I'll try and mention you guys next week, and yeah, until then, have a good week. Take care.